Concord is an unfinished, confused, and misguided game, and I do not understand how Sony thinks that they can release this in 5 weeks to good results. It is also really sad, because the core of the game, the fundamentals, the part where you play a shooter, are excellent. It comes from a team that contains a lot of veteran developers from a lot of different first-person shooter studios, and it shows. Everything from the technical aspects to the game, to game feel, to ability and character and weapon design, feedback, movement, everything here I think is top-notch, and it's good enough to compete at the very top of an excessively crowded genre. But they do nothing with it. So there's a lot of stuff to discuss. Hi, I'm Mug Thief, welcome. Remember to hit the like button. Let's go through the good stuff with Concord first, because that way it'll make a lot more sense why it's a shame when we get to all of the bad stuff. So that same idea that everything here is really well put together, I want to emphasize just how well that is. I would say that the thing that stands out the least are, for me personally, the aesthetics. I feel like they're very Saturday morning cartoonish, maybe for like a teenage audience. I mean, let's get it out of the way. It's very Guardians of the Galaxy. And I don't like the personalities and the quips of the characters as much as in other hero shooters, but that is very subjective. The maps, however, are very good, but not interesting. They're not surprising. They're not really cool. I think that a lot of the map design was done very bare bones to take into account just how many deployables and different things the characters can do by putting up walls and bubbles and things. They just lack personality and originality in their design. They don't feel like they do anything interesting or fun with the ideas that they have to, you know, unique landmarks that you would be like, oh, a firefight at this location. They all just kind of feel like, oh yes, this is a very good map layout to have good angles and good choke points and flow very well, but not impressive. If you take out the aesthetics and the maps though, when we talk about the guns and the abilities, it is very good. I don't think the game is really all that balanced at the moment, and we'll talk about that in the cons, but I've at least played once with every single hero, with every single one of the free gunners, and I think all of their kits, while unoriginal, this will be a continuing trend here, are sometimes mishmashes of abilities you would find on different heroes in a different game, and they're combined interestingly into one hero, so there's a bit of a surprise, but they all work well, they all make sense. All of the kits of all of the heroes have depth. There is a decently low skill floor here, but a very high skill ceiling. You can immediately tell after spending 2 or 3 hours playing with a character that there is a lot to get to grips with to really master the character and perform optimally with them. So there's very good design going on with the kits themselves. Being a hero shooter and coming from an overcrowded genre, the gameplay though feels a bit like a mishmash of multiple different things. I would say the closest feeling is somewhere around Destiny 2 PvP or Halo-ish, plus Overwatch, and then some modes and stylings of something like a Siege or a Valorant. But when it comes to game feel, it's kind of faster Halo or a bit faster Destiny, and it feels great. Most everyone has a double jump, some have triple jumps, they have dashes, teleports, dodges. You can crouch into jumps, you can jump into slides, there's all sorts of movement going on with all of these crazy abilities that leads to very interesting firefights, and you can pull off sick plays and feel great playing the game. When everything is working together, the game is awesome, except that it's not awesome enough to ever really move somebody away from their established hero shooter that they already like, unless they wanted to switch to something completely new. More on that later. But that's my point with all of it. It's a good solid foundation for a shooter that then just has a lot of issues. The biggest issue is the mishmash that you see in the gameplay also goes into the modes. I don't think that Concord knows what it wants to be, and that's pretty bad. Because Concord either doesn't know or is very bad at communicating exactly what mode, what style of play, what sort of game, be that casual or very competitive, it wants to be. When you look at the broader shooter space, you know, something from Call of Duty of just not ranked, not highly competitive, it's just people hopping on and getting frags and leveling up and having fun, all the way to the sweatiest side of Siege and Valorant with things in the middle like Battle Royales, your Apexes, or games like Overwatch. If there's one part of these games that I think is really important is that they know what they are and they stick to it. Sure, Call of Duty has a ranked mode, but they know that's not what people normally play. Overwatch wants to funnel people into competitive because they know that the best version of that game is 5 people coordinating and fighting against another 5 people that are coordinating. That is where you have the most even matches that are the most exciting and the most memorable. Apex understands that its biggest strength is Battle Royale. And while you can have supplemental modes that help new players come into the game and understand it in maybe a less intimidating environment, I believe Apex saw its largest player growth when they introduced arenas back when Valkyrie was released. These side modes have their pros and cons because you're also splitting the player base and they take a lot of effort. You have to rejigger a lot of stuff when a game is designed for a specific thing to make all of those concepts fit a different thing. And again, just to probably split your player base. So it's really puzzling to me that Concord really seems to struggle in differentiating itself with its abilities and its heroes and a lot of its design, but its modes are just not clear either. The game starts you off only with Team Deathmatch and then unlocks control zones. It's basically domination, except for your counter to go up, you need to be holding 2 zones uncontested. And then the third mode it unlocks is a round-based mode with 2 different possible objective types, but this would be something like Siege or Valorant. There's a picking phase at the start of each round. Everybody picks which free gunner they want to use. You go into battle. If you die, there's no respawn. And if you win, you can't use that free gunner again. It gets locked out for you, though. Somebody else can use it. There's no econ system like in other round-based games. And by the way, very subjective, but this is not the style that I like to play of first-person shooters. But this left me with a big question. It seems through the progression that they're prepping you up in order to play the real mode, which is this round-based mode, which means that at the end of the day, the identity that it's searching for is to be Overwatch, but with Destiny-style combat in the format of Valorant, but without econ? But also you have to constantly switch which free gunner you're playing, which kind of goes against how a lot of people play these games, which is they main a character. They want to be, you know, the best tracer in the world or something. So you have to prep all of these different heroes, and that is also incentivized by the crew system, which is needlessly complex. You kind of build a deck of heroes that you will have in your pool to choose from during any type of playlist. And that can include duplicates of a hero, so that if you win with one version of the same hero, you can pick the other version which has a different passive. But also all of these add boosts depending on who you put in, including characters that maybe you never intend to play, that also serve as kind of a comeback mechanic by the properties of the deck and along with your team. It's very confusing. And most importantly, I don't think it's very fun. I don't think it works all that well. It's very tactical, there's a lot of strategy, and because the foundation here is so strong, it makes sense, but this sort of more chaotic, highly mobile, arcadey gameplay to me fits much better with an Overwatch style, which would be team control. And this is subjective. I'm sure that a lot of people will prefer the round-based mode, but the fact that people like me exist means that you already have a division in the player base, you are already splitting that player base, and you're not making it very clear what the focus of the game is, which is not a good sign when your player base is incredibly low during the free beta. This means that no matter how cool some of these abilities and some of these characters are, or how fun it can be to play, there's multiple ways to play it that already feel like they're fracturing the game and are pulling it in different directions of something more casual to have fun with, or something that wants to be highly competitive, but I'm not sure what those competitive modes are even gonna be like. You can see this division even more by the fact that, as I was talking about skill ceilings before, this is still going to suffer from the same problems that you would have in something like a Siege or an Overwatch. You really want heroes that are going to synergize, and while you can overcome your team comp not really synergizing by just being godlike and carrying, that's kind of a natural design part of these games in balance. The idea of consistently improvising team comps with lockouts in a pick section before every single round with randoms in order for it to be highly competitive stresses me out just thinking about it. When this is a game that if the team comp is bad or if one of the people aren't pulling their weight in a very even match, you will lose. Sure, yes, you can pull through, you can carry, never give up, whatever the mentality you want to have. But the fact is you're going to be at a huge disadvantage if somebody just isn't playing well. Which also means that for everybody to be playing well all the time, everybody needs a large hero pool that's going to fit into a lot of different comps that you're making as you go. See what I mean of just like, why? There's also no specific role queue or anything like that, so you can have a team with 5 squishy attackers, or you can have a team with a tank, a sniper, a bruiser type, and 2 supports, and you will immediately notice the difference, trust me. So in a competitive setting, that's gonna get really bad really fast, trust me. You can also notice just how valuable every single person on the team has to be and how valuable each skill can be because there's no backfill. So of the 8 or so hours that I played of the beta, a lot of it was waiting 3 to 4 minute queues to get into a match for somebody to die and leave and then get rolled over. Even then, there were a good amount of healthy games where nobody left and it was either we rolled or got rolled. And then in the middle, the really tense matches, the maybe 5 or 6 that I had that were really good, were, in fact, really good. So matchmaking quality is going to be a really important part about this game, which again, that needs a very healthy player base. So at the end of the day, Concord just feels like it's a mishmash of a lot of ideas that is somehow chasing a trend that many people consider to be dead, and without being excessively original or having a clear direction, or if it does, not communicating it well to players, at least at this point in time, it wants to convince you to probably let go of whatever current live service game that you're already invested in so that you can pay $40 to play this one. How is this a good idea? The talent on display is obvious. There's a reason Sony bought out Firewalk for this game. It's very well made, but some of the more important parts of the game just aren't there yet. And it's being released in a moment in time where I don't think it's going to capture an audience, at least judging from the beta on PC with Steam numbers. Of course, that could also be because you're forced into making a PSN account and linking it in order to play the beta, but I'm very curious to see what's going on with the pre-order numbers for this game. And when you think about it, $40 for this game is full price. This is something that we used to see before where you release a shooter that's only multiplayer, so you kind of take away a chunk of the price that would be the campaign. And while Helldivers 2, which is the other live service that Sony released this year and has been massively successful, made sense at $40 because in its genre, there's nothing free to play to compete with, not to mention just how unique and how well thought out Helldivers 2 was right from the start. This one is competing against an army of free-to-play hero shooters that have years and years and years of players that are also bringing in new players into their established and much more refined and balanced ecosystems. Whether they're toxic or horrible or whatever you want to say, they are more popular and people prefer to play things that are established normally because they know somebody who already plays them. It's an incredibly difficult market to break into, and the only thing that I see here to justify the $40 plus very probably microtransactions on top of that for this game is that they're including story every week. They have a new cinematic every week that moves the story forward and shows you the crew and all of the characters and their personalities, which, I mean, it's not badly written. I didn't go like, damn, this is terrible. But I was like, I know what these characters are. Look, it's Drax. And that's it. And I don't think that justifies the $40 price tag. Just because the game is coming out with X amount of content or with X amount of polish, with X amount of technical expertise or anything like that behind it, doesn't justify the $40 price tag when instead, this game could have been free to play with a huge push behind it, showing people, look, even though this is free to play, we're releasing it with so much content, so much for you to enjoy, and in such a polished state that would probably break through the noise and at least give this game a fighting chance. Maybe as a free-to-play game, it would have more eyes on it, more people would be willing to try it, it could catch a little bit of momentum, and they could maybe solve whatever it is that they want to do with the game. Get some feedback, check out what people really enjoy about it and what direction to take it, and then build from there. You know, build out this excellent foundation into a game that's worth investing time into, since it is a live service. But if you're gonna put the $40 barrier in front of something that, upon playing it, just gives you that basic sandbox, how? Why? Now, I don't want Concord to fail because I don't want games to be bad or anything. I would like there to be infinite good games for infinite people to play, wonderful land of gumdrops type stuff. But I really don't see how Concord can be successful and how the cons that I've laid out in this video could be overcome by release time in 5 weeks. It's a terrible shame, and it's, once again, the very late, in this case, chase of the golden goose of live service games that are going to be continuous revenue streams in the future, but now combined with the upfront price and competing in the most crowded genre of live service games, I think. The game doesn't suck, it's just sad. It's just depressing. But that's my early review of Concord from the beta. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button. If you want more of my opinions on games, be that news, reviews, or my long-form essays, maybe check out the channel, even consider subscribing. Regardless, thank you for watching all the way to the end, and an extra special thanks to my patrons up on the $1 patron wall. It's called that way because there's only one tier, $1. More info in the description below. I've been Mug Thief. This is a shame, but you know, it is what it is. And as always, I'll see you again very soon.